Hey everybody, welcome back. Egg and Baby in the morning. We are on a 0 streak, which is fine. I mean, we had a run that if any run is acceptable to lose, which I definitely believe is like a mathematical certainty at some extent. CAVCVB8Z as Eve here. Then that was one of them, a keeper run. Where, to be honest, we kind of had like the opposite problem that you normally have on a keeper run. Normally you don't end up, let me put it this way, you end up searching hard for the enablers, things like Nun's Habit, Fanny Pack, Piggy Bank, etc., and, even if you get stats, very difficult to maintain the level of consistency required to win as the keeper, just because the chance of dying is, just always there, it's ubiquitous. I mean, why say always there when ubiquitous would do the trick, right? Why use many word when few word would do the trick, even if few word has many letter? And it just feels nice, right? Ubiquitous. Doesn't it sound like a fluid that could get stuck in your thoracic cavity and have to get drained or something like that? Oh yes, sorry sir, your abdomen is full of ubiquity. We're gonna need to drain you, we're gonna put in a stent. Anyway, I don't know what I'm talking about. Either way, we had the opposite problem. We got those enablers, we didn't get any freaking stats. We were flying, like a Wright Brothers biplane. We were trying to go from JFK Airport to, Narita. Can't be done. Those things, they could only fly for like 100 feet. I don't know if that's true. I honestly don't know that much about the history of aviation. That might be, maybe my next audiobook. Not that I write or read out loud. I don't know, that's weird. Isn't it weird? Hey, in 1950, I'm gonna read a book. Sits down and reads a book. Hey, in 2020, I'm gonna read a book. This is Audible. Simon & Schuster Audiobooks presents, blah, blah. Look, it's not a good joke, but it does make you think. It's less of a joke and more of a philosophy, I guess. I can't, I don't know, I think I've been listening to like the same 10 audiobooks for a decade, and it's fine because I usually fall asleep like half an hour into them, but I think I've almost learned everything about the Second World War at this point. I think I'm pretty much tapped out. There's this book by a historian named I think his name is William Shirer. I can't remember. It's called The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich. It's an audiobook I recommend to literally everybody because it's genuinely like 50 hours long. I think after years, if you're exclusively looking for either comprehensive detail or alternatively something that's going to put you to sleep, and not because it's boring, but I mean, I guess if you're watching this, you're probably already good for sleep aids, but I think I finally tapped out. I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, I whenever I get an audiobook on Audible, maybe it's not the right way to think about it. Maybe it's a little bit, overly min-maxy. But I probably... Oh, hey, baby. You get 1 Audible credit a month, right? To get an audiobook. Sometimes I'll want to get an audiobook that I'm interested in reading, but it's only like 5 hours long. I'll buy it. And then I'll just search with my Audible credit to try to find something that's a bigger bang for my buck. I know how that sounds, but it's true to some extent. Like, something's 4 hours long, I'm like, man, if I have a bad night, I could finish that book right now, I need something that's like, an oral history of the Crusades. Read by Gilbert Gottfried. That's rarely the case, but I don't know. Anybody else out there min-maxing your Audible credits? It doesn't feel, and sometimes it's probably the economical decision if you got nothing else to spend your credits on, but it just doesn't feel right, to use one of your Audible credits on a book that's like, less than 20 hours long. Maybe I'm the only person with a complex out there, but I don't think so. I'd be surprised. That's all I'm saying is, I'd be surprised. So yeah, you might be able to guess by the crack in my voice. Everything's going well, but I didn't sleep particularly well last night. It is what it is, and, you know, we have to do the same routine every time? Oh, wow, ooh, baby didn't sleep so well. I mean, the baby slept great, but... Oh, ooh, daddy didn't sleep so well last night. Oh, ooh, he goes to... I mean, this is me making fun of myself. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, like, you know... My eyes are a little bit tired. That's all I got. Oh, man, this is like the one boss I didn't want to see here. The one boss I didn't want to see. Okay, we're still fine. I'm just, I'm a little surprised we haven't managed to get a key. But I'm just running it in my head. All the things she said, running through my head, running through my head. You remember Tattoo? This is almost like a caricature of a me video right now. We got a very good DPS right now. And I was just gonna say, it's a little touchy, right? Because we're actually... Okay, now, never mind. It's not touchy at all. We have 2 HP. I am going to go freaking loco. I went for everything there. Do not try this at home. Your safety is not guaranteed. I'm pretty sure we're rolling 1 Spirit Heart right now. But it, in theory at least, is definitely like... It's an equitable exchange, is I guess what I'm trying to say. What we'd love to see, and I'd be skeptical that it's going to happen. What I would love to see is a key, obviously. If we don't get it, we don't get it. Our stats are still really good. The other thing, and I know you're like, what you should do is use a bomb, try to get into your secret room. Your secret room could have a bomb, then you could go to the, you could go to either the item room or shop, and you could maybe start to work on the flowchart that way. I'm gonna take a slightly different tact here. I think we're gonna look for a second secret room with our 1 bomb. It didn't work out, but my thinking was if it had Spirit Hearts or Demon Hearts, then then Ace of Hearts could have turned any consumables into Demon Hearts as well. After I thought about it for like 2 extra seconds, I was like, I think it's one of those ideas you're kind of darned if you do and darned if you don't, but I don't even want, well, I mean, of course I'll take it if you got extra, but I don't even want praise for being a little bit spicy on this run. Like, I actually think we just made the right decision, and it looks dangerous. This is not a decision I'm really throwing caution to the wind just to, you know, just to be that kind of guy. Like, this is one where I actually think that our odds of winning, we did the best thing we could do to raise our odds of winning, in my opinion. But anyway, I know, baby. Baby had a good sleep. That's more... I am being sincere. I would rather the baby has a good sleep than I have a good sleep. And it's not out of complete selflessness, although of course there's, you know, an aspect of that. It's actually more like, if the baby has a bad sleep, then everybody's gonna have a bad sleep. So we might as well have you have you have a good sleep. And then, you know, everything else is kind of an independent variable there. I know, baby. We gotta get you like a VR headset or something. That's what like a little baby VR. I'm surprised it doesn't exist yet. But like we got these, you know, we got toys for the baby. She's in her bouncer chair right now, and there's a little like iron rod that goes across, and it's got, you know, some wooden shapes on it that you can kind of like smack around. But I think she's pretty much mastered it. Like, a few months ago, she wouldn't even touch it. She was like, you know, this is way too advanced for me. What is this, like an 8th grade level? Now, she's, like, I give her the toy, she smacks it around, as if to say, like, you know, come on, what do you got for me? You know, you know what, baby? Can I regale you? You ever hear of something called Fermat's Last Theorem? Hey, you never know. If we started the baby young trying to solve Fermat's Last Theorem, she might be able to solve it. And isn't that one... I don't know. My knowledge of mathematics is... I mean, you're gonna laugh, because, like, there's always situations where, like, you'll be on stream and be like, you know, what's 5 times 5? Oh, 10. People will be like, oh, lol, NA school. Okay, I mean, you got me on that one. I actually... If you're looking for somebody to make fun of the North American, you know, math curriculum, I will join you in solidarity. I think that you got to be careful with the way you say this. I talk about school a lot. I feel like there's, you know, been a little bit of a de-emphasis on mathematics, which I don't support, honestly. Now, that being said, people sometimes take that as like, oh, NL, I didn't know you were like that kind of STEM lord guy. Like, do you ever hear the way I talk? Like, I love the humanities. I love, you know, I respect them all. In particular, though, I enjoy, you know, history and, you know, psychology. It's more of a STEM, to be fair. But, like, even philosophy and stuff like that, literature, you know, oh, we got our secret room there. And it's terrible, so I'll see you later. But I'm always like, I don't know. I think, like, my perception on education changed a little bit when I was in Korea. I think Korea does a lot of things wrong with education that North America does right. Maybe other parts of the world as well. I can't speak for that, but okay, secret. This is what we're talking about right here. In particular, there's like a real emphasis on, like, you know, in my opinion, and you're not going to hear me say this too much about kids in Canada, but you know, the kids in South Korea, education-wise, are overworked, in my opinion, and you know, they from like 6th grade onwards are basically spending, you know, like 10 to 12 hours a day at various different schools, either private or, you know, public, and then on top of that, hours and hours of homework every single night, which I know you're like, it was the same for me. It's possible, but I doubt it. I mean, like, the average situation, you know, I would talk to some of the kids in my class, and they'd be like, yeah, on average, I go to bed at like 1 a.m. I'd be like, you're, you know, 11. You're 11 years old, you're going to bed at 1 a.m.? In 6th grade? Like, in 6th grade, I had we had a unit every single week where we played Lemmings, you know? So I think that's, like, a little crazy, for sure. It's not even just, like, let kids be kids. It's like, you know, hey, sleep is, like, so important, especially at that age. And, you know, you're putting so much pressure on these kids that they, like, you know, they don't have the... Adults don't deal with stress well, most of the time. But, you know, how is somebody that's 11 years old? You know, you're born in the year, like, frickin' 2010. You're like, what do you do to relieve stress? You got no tools for that, you know? It's, so it's kind of backwards in my opinion. However, like, the flip side of that is that the kids end up learning an awful lot. Now, some of the emphasis, depending on the subject, is on, like, rote memorization and just getting the right answers, you know, through that way, rather than analysis, which, you know, maybe philosophically I disagree with, but even just talking to Kate sometimes, she's like, you know, like, the math that she moved to Canada when she was, like, 9, I think. Hold on. Let's use potato peeler one more time. I can live with this. And then what is this? It's Ace of Hearts, right? We could save the stars card. We could use it right now to avoid a key, but we could also use it later to get a teleport advantage out of it, which I think is a little bit juicier. And she, you know, she tells me things like, I don't actually want the third potato peeler here. I prefer to have the orbital, quite frankly, than to have a third or even, like, looking at a 4th level Meat Boy. I think a first, 2nd level Meat Boy is actually better than the upgrades. But anyway, we would get some damage out of it. There is that. Anyway, she told me that, like, you know, the math that she was learning in Korea in, like, you know, 3rd grade, 4th grade, you know, they didn't really get to that level in Canadian math until, like, 8th grade. Which is a little crazy to me. Like, I don't think math is the be-all, end-all of education. But I think it's important. If only, like, I think it teaches, much like, you know, computer programming can. I think if you teach it right, it teaches critical thinking and, you know, problem solving and et cetera, et cetera. So you know, anytime I talk about school, I make everybody upset, so I should just shut up. But I'm always like, you know, it comes to this position where I'm like, you know, Korean school children work too hard, and everybody's like, yeah, get them. And then I'm like, and, you know, North American kids don't work hard enough. And people are like, wait a minute. What kind of guy have I aligned myself with here on this one? But I don't know. I think there's something to be said. That's all I'm saying, you know? And I know you're probably like, don't go down this road again. We've been there. I've got no freaking anecdotes, man. Haven't you been listening? I got no freaking anecdotes. Haven't left the house. Okay? Like, what's my anecdote? Oh, yesterday, it was a really good HelloFresh because we had only 3 or 4 dishes instead of 4,000. But, like, I don't necessarily mean that, like, you know, kids should, you know, be in those schools where they're there like 12 hours a day, you know, private calculus tutors when they're like in 3rd grade and stuff like that. But I always think, like, you know, one of the things I see a lot online, and I saw it for a time in myself as well, is like people who are naturally or for whatever reason a little bit more scholastically minded when they're younger. You know, when you're like in 2nd grade, 1st grade, etc., you got that appetite for school. At least some people do. And, you know, you're really eager to like learn. And then eventually, and this was my experience, and again, I'm not some like otherworldly genius. I was just like, you know, a well-read 7-year-old. It's really what it was. But, you know, eventually, you know, the teachers start to see you almost as like a burden. When you're like, I'm done, they're like, okay, do this, and then you're like, bloop, 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 I'm done. And you know, I think you end up in this situation that happens a lot, where you get like, kids who are kind of like natural overachievers. They have an appetite for learning more, learning faster, but the system just kind of doesn't have the scaffolding there to allow that. And then as a result, they're like, fine, I'll find my, you know, kicks elsewhere, and they, you know, never are, they don't feel challenged anymore, so they don't build good study habits. And then, like, you know, they're like, you know, what's the point of even trying hard if I could, like, you know, give half of my effort and still do well? Then, you know, trying hard is just for the birds. I could be playing, like, you know, NBA in this time instead. Or 2K, sorry, to avoid the confusion. And you know, I kind of went through that as well. So that's, I'm not necessarily saying that, you know, kids should work more in North America, but, you know, I really feel like, especially in those formative years, like, and again, I'm not the only person that's ever experienced this for sure, but like, oh, you're like a little above average at, like, you know, addition, subtraction, multiplication. Well, get ready to do a lot of word searches. Get ready, because your teacher's gonna be like, oh, okay, we'll do it again. And then when you do it again, they're gonna be like, we got this word search. We got this cool word search for you to fill out. So I wish that there was, and I don't know, maybe, you know, it's just a product to some extent of the area that, you know, we grew up in, where there was like a school. If you wanted like a slightly more enriched education, you're like, you know, I don't know. I don't know where you go for that. I guess we have to move. You have to have a pretty smart, like 9 or 10-year-old kid to be like, oh, we're gonna move house, so that they can learn long division 6 months early, right? So I guess that's, I mean, I have other thoughts, like in high school. I've said this 1,000 times, so I apologize. In high school, I think it should be much more like practical education. I know it's like a very old take, a very common take. It's very cold. Most people agree on this one, I think, but I'm even like, man, at the expense. Everyone wants to, like, you know, they're always like, oh, let's cut media studies. I mean, are you looking at the state of the world, man? People need media literacy more than ever. People are getting, you know, grifted by, you know, they think that just because the a website has like a newspaper's letterhead, that it must be like legitimate. And you're like, it's called the, you know, it's called the Meme Examiner or something like that. As someone with a degree in STEM, even if you want to call you know, biology the humanities of STEM, like, you could slow down like some of the science teaching. I'm being just sincere. Like, I mean, I say this as somebody who likes biology. What do you get out of, like, 10th grade biology, right? That would have been a great time for a personal finance class. Or, like, you know, public speaking, or even, I don't know, just, like, learning to, like, communicate with other people. Should be, like, a talking class, man. There's, like, here's how you resolve problems without, you know, resorting to name-calling. Anyway, that's what I got about that. That being said, I am definitely planning on being a tiger mom. Like, even right now, I'm baking it in, and I'm like, this baby, you know, she's had this, what is this, 18 minutes? We're 18 minutes into the run? This baby has had 18 minutes of leisure time, so, you know, when you're 6, you know, get ready for that to be used against you. Oh, really? You don't want to go to piano practice? Are you forgetting about the 18 minutes of Isaac that you watched on March 9th, 2021? That's what I thought. That's what I frickin' thought. Anyway, this run has been, like, highly vindicated. Things a touch dangerous in the early game, for sure. Held it together, made it work. We will not lose. This is basically borderline unlosable. It's hard to fathom a situation where a loss could come to be. Guppy's head. So we already have the Whore of Babylon. So the thing is, I love an orbital, but sure. Alright, just to be able to hold it and get some spare damage out of it, why not? Why not, right, baby? Right, baby? Oh, she's having a great time right now. I don't even need to bust out the frog likes to hop, hop, hop. Anyway, it's also worth noting, most YouTubers won't say this after they go off on an impassioned rant that they have no qualifications to back up. I have dabbled in education. I've been a student before. I was a teacher before, but it was not in the traditional education model. It was, you know, for-profit Korean private academies. Fate's Reward, huh? Which I would not necessarily consider, like, emblematic of, you know, let me put it this way. A year of being basically like a glorified, daycare, professional. Which is not an insult to daycare, like, especially right now, oh my god. If you're working in daycare right now, you're saving lives, I'm sure. Oh, I didn't need to pick it up. You know what we can do? Hold on. We can get out of this. You pick this one up so that you have HP available for the potential deal with the devil. And if you don't get it, you still got Whore of Babylon going on. Who cares? It doesn't really qualify me to speak on educational policy, so I'm not trying to, you know, I'm not trying to make, like, an incredible case like I'm the only person that's got it all figured out. Rather, you know, these are just my thoughts, obviously. I think there's also definitely, like, something to be said, but for letting kids be kids, you know? It is, and you don't appreciate it, you know? Even when you're a kid, when you hear the expression, like, youth is wasted on the young, you don't appreciate it, because you're like, yeah, not this youth. Being 8 actually sucks. Can't even buy T-rated video games. But I think, like, the spirit of the phrase, youth is wasted on the youth, is, like... And this is coming from somebody who was like, I was like a 40-year-old toddler, right? Like, I've always been kind of, mother, what's the macronutrient profile of this chicken finger sandwich? I was basically like a young Sheldon prototype, right? Minus the genius level IQ. Either way, even in that way, I think the spirit of youth is wasted on the young is the idea that, like, you know, once you go through that portal to, like, adulthood and responsibility, there's no way back. And I mean that in both a good way and a bad way. You might think there's a way back, like, oh, you know, if you accidentally, like, took on too much responsibility in your 20s, then you could, you know, oh, just, like, quit your job and start traveling or something like that in your 30s if you had the means, and then, like, you know, find yourself. But no, you still got responsibilities. You know, you still can't eat just cheeseburgers for lunch. You're gonna blow out your O-ring. You have a responsibility to yourself at that point, you know? Like, as a kid, it's kind of like you got a lot of whiteout. Everything you do as a child, unless it carries, you know, like the permanent scar of injury or something like that, you know, you kind of get a do-over. I think that's why, like, as a kid, you can't be charged with, like, real crimes, right? Even if you murder somebody, if you're, like, 11 years old, people are like, what are you gonna do? I'm not saying there can't be evil 11-year-olds. And, you know, I know in some situations they do get tried as an adult, which, and I'm not a master of criminal philosophy or whatever, judicial reform. Why, how can you be tried as an adult? I don't, like, if a crime is particularly bad, then, like, it's a little different, I guess. I don't know, there's probably people smarter than myself. I just never thought about it before, that, like, oh yeah, like, if a 12-year-old does a murder, it's not a murder. Unless, you know, it's a bad murder, in which case, yes, then in that case, he's an adult. I guess it's more to stop, like, public outrage, right? Like, but, you know, I think, that's why, like, if you know, stole 20 bucks worth of merchandise from a Walmart when you're, like, 14 years old, they don't throw the book at you and, like, you know, put you in prison. They're like, what are you gonna do? He's 11. Get me out of here. You shouldn't be stealing no matter what, but I've seen 11-year-olds do all sorts of stuff. Have you seen the kind of content 11-year-olds watch on YouTube? Some scumbag who plays Isaac all the time talks about things that are way beyond his intellectual purview. That's me. I'm making fun of myself. That's the joke. I mean, like, as here's how dumb I was when I was 12. When we learned about the fact that you couldn't get charged for doing crimes until you were, like, 13 or 14 or something like that, me and my 6th grade classmates, like, daydreamed about all the crimes we could do. Oh man, we could like, as if doing a crime was, like, some incredible, like, reward that we could get. Oh man, just think about it. We could freaking illegally park the cars we're not allowed to drive right now, dude. That's the mind of a 12-year-old, you know? They're not, you know, they can't be held responsible for, I mean, murders, I don't know, it depends on the situation. Suffice it to say, I don't think you should get your thoughts on, you know, imprisonment and crime and mandatory minimum sentences and stuff like that from a YouTube video about a roguelite that came out 10 years ago. I'm just spitballing as always. Now I'm like, I don't know, it's a little too sensitive of a bit, but I'm realizing the absurdity of a child being tried as an adult. Your Honor, it was a particularly adult murder. He drank a cup of black coffee before the murder. He was reading the business section of the newspaper before he committed this grisly crime. He complained that his lower back hurt. Does that sound like a 12-year-old child to you, Your Honor? He had recently threatened a teenager to get off his lawn. If that doesn't speak to this being an adult murder, I don't know what is. Your Honor, his breath kind of stank. Like, he clearly brushed his teeth, but a lifetime of coffee consumption has led to a situation where it really never got to that winter level of freshness ever again. If that's not an adult kind of murder, I don't know what is. Hey, anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, click the like button, but even more importantly, follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Northernlion, live every day but Saturday, and I'll see you there. See you!